We are now live, Councillor Stubbs.
Okay, so thank you. Good evening and welcome to Hackney's Planning Committee. Just a reminder that the Council will be recording this meeting and it's being live streamed, so do bear that in mind, please. My name's Councillor Vincent Stops and I shall be chairing this evening's meeting. We'll be undertaking this meeting in as close a fashion as we can to our normal format meetings. The virtual meeting has a chat function. Please only use this function to raise technology related issues. So it's not a chat box for chatting in. It's essentially to communicate with Mario, our IT person. Only one person, please speak at a time. And we haven't got any objectors this evening, so it's relatively easy for us. I think things will go more smoothly than normal. It's a bit disappointing we haven't got any objectors to some degree to put us on our mettle, but there we go. No, please, no disruption. If you do disrupt the meeting, there is the potential that you could be barred from the meeting. If there's an internet outage, we'll do the best we can to get started back up. If a member has a problem, then we may need to count you out of the decision because you need to have been in the meeting for the full time. Can I then introduce members of the committee? So we go round and just say who we are and introduce ourselves. So Katie first, please.
Councillor Katie Hanson, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Susan? Susan?
Councillor Susan Fajano Thomas, good evening.
Thank you. Brian? Hello, Brian.
Councillor Bell was on the call a moment ago. He seems to have dropped out.
Okay, let's hope.
Oh, no, he's back.
There he is. Okay, Brian. Hi. Okay, Brian. Peter? Hello, Peter.
Hello, Councillor Peter Snell.
Nice to see you, Peter. And Claire, finally. Claire Potter, Councillor Potter.
Councillor Claire Potter.
Okay, that's good. We can hear everybody. So we've also got our head of planning, Natalie, with us, our legal advisor, Tom, who would normally sit on the front bench with us, and Gareth, who some of you will have talked to, is our committee services. There are other planning and design and transport officers to help us this evening. Before me moving on to the agenda, can I take a couple of minutes to explain how the meeting will proceed? We'll hear each application summarised by officers, a 5-minute statement from objectors, we don't have any, and a 5-minute statement from the applicant if they choose to take that time. Members will then be free to ask questions. It's my role as chair to make sure members have the information they need to make a decision, and objectors and applicants have had their say, and that the meeting runs properly. I'll not taking any contributions from the floor. You'll have needed to tell us that you were going to be speaking this evening. As I've said, there's a time limit of 5 minutes for the applicants to speak. Members are not representing either their wards nor their political parties. We make our decision on the basis of any site visits we've made, what we've read in the reports, and of course what we hear this evening. We must only take account of policies adopted by Hackney Council and other material planning policies and material planning considerations. Members making the decision should not have allowed themselves to prejudge any application prior to the meeting. Similarly, if they have any interest in the application site or the people involved, they should declare that interest and may choose to remove themselves from the decision in any item of business. If they would normally, we would normally require them to leave the room, we'll contact them and let them come back a little later. And the Democratic Services will be keeping an eye on that, I hope. When we've finished our deliberations, we'll vote on the recommendation. I'll describe the voting procedure before we vote. And that voting procedure is that I call for a vote and people put their hands up, and then I go round and ask them whether they support or whatever. So we'll talk about that close to the time. When the decision's made, that's the end of the matter for the committee. The applicant may appeal our decision to the Secretary of State, and objectors may seek legal redress, and advise you to seek professional advice in either case. So we've introduced ourselves. Thank you very much. And can we now move to the agenda, please? So normally, I'm just going to be a little bit slower because I haven't got my paper copies. So I'm having to run on my computer. I've got the Modern Gov dot stuff, but I don't know, that's a bit slower. So apologies for absence then, please.
Councillor Stobbs, I have apologies from Councillor Levy, Councillor Joseph and Councillor Race. Before I finish, Councillor Stobbs, are you able to slightly adjust your camera so we could see you?
Oh, wow. I can't.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
Corner. Okay, I can't.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. And declarations of interest. I have none. I've not been lobbied at all this time. Anybody else, any declaration of interest? No. Okay. So I've got nothing else on my agenda. We've got no minutes to review. And so we'll just go to Alex for land at Wimborne Street, please. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just turn on my presentation if you just give me a moment. Now, can everyone see the presentation?
It's winding up, yes.
Okay, right.
Just loading here.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. So this is for an application at the land at Wimborne Street, the London N17HB. So the application is for the redevelopment of 2 rectangular garage sites on the north and south side of Wimborne Street. The site is located within the Wenlock Barn Estate, with the red line boundary of the site straddling Wimborne Street, which you can see down the middle here, and extending to Brackland Court and Wimborne Court to the west, Brackland Court to the north, New North Road to the east, and Cropley Court to the south. It is noted that Park Court is excluded from the red line boundary. This wider red line boundary has been purposefully created to ensure that associated landscape and public groundworks can be delivered as part of the scheme. So the proposal provides 59 new residential units within 2 linear blocks, as well as a small commercial unit within the northern block. To facilitate the development, 26 garages would be demolished and 4 trees are proposed to be removed. A 6-storey building to replace the 18 garages on the southern side of Wimborne Street. The footprint is shown by the dotted blue line. And an 8-storey building to replace the 8 garages to be constructed on the northern side of Wimborne Street can be seen delineated by the dotted green line. So here are just a few photos of the site context. From photo 1, you can see the view of the site from Shoreditch Park, looking across New North Road. So to the left of the site, we have Wimborne House. To the rear, we've got Brackland Court, and to the right, we have Park Court. And if you're looking at photo 2, it's a view of the garages, again, looking from New North Road, but looking south towards Wimborne House. Photo 3 is looking along Wimborne Street from New North Road, just a close-up version of the garages. And photo 4 shows the existing car parking, CPZ car parking, which will be removed to make way for the Wimborne North building. And if you look at photo 5, this is looking south across the existing play area towards Cropley Court, between which the Wimborne South will be proposed. Photo 6 shows a more existing CPZ car parking with Park Court behind. Photo 7 shows the proposed location for Wimborne South and the 18 garages proposed to be removed there. And photo 8 is another view of this looking north towards Park Court. It should be mentioned the site is not located in a conservation area, and as can be seen from the wider area photos, the site is located in an area with an established context of dense residential develops ranging in height from around 4 to 11 stories. So the development is part of Hackney's council housing supply program, which was approved by the Cabinet in February 2016 and seeks to deliver good quality affordable housing on underutilised council-owned sites within the borough's existing housing estates. The program will deliver at least 50% social rent and shared ownership affordable units secured by an unilateral undertaking on 16 sites within the borough. As well as the provision of good quality affordable housing, the development also provides general landscaping works, including new pavements and the planting of 40 new trees, a new playground, the creation of new pedestrian routes between Wimborne House and Cropley Court through to New North Road, which can be seen here, new bin stores for Park Court and Cropley Court, which have been included as part of a redesigned comprehensive refuse strategy for the site and surrounding buildings. The relocation of an existing bus stop on the north side of Wimborne Street and a relocated substation. In terms of the tenure split of the proposal, it is designed to be tenure blind and will deliver a mix of social rent, shared ownership and market units for sale. The property will deliver 56% affordable housing, a total of 33 units, in line with London Plan and Hackney Local Plan policies. In regard to car parking, the proposal will result in a reduction of existing car parking levels, and the project will deliver 152 cycle storage, a mixture of both long and short stay. So if we look at the northern block, you can see that it's set back from the pavement edge with a strip of private amenity space associated with these ground floor flats. The southern block follows the back of pavement line of Wimborne House. A shallow planned strip also extends onto the existing pavement. Both of the flat roofs will include plant equipment, green roofs and PV panels. So this is the ground floor plan for Wimborne North. It addresses the street with 4 dual aspect and wheelchair adaptable units with their front garden. It also contains a communal lobby giving access to all of the upper 4 flats and a commercial unit which faces onto New North Road, which can be seen here, which has 107 square metres. To the rear, the block faces a more private courtyard interior shared with Park Court, with rear private space for the ground floor units, which can be seen along here. It also has rear communal access, communal servicing and the side of the commercial unit. Bike storage is located and accessed from Wimborne Street. So Wimborne North fronts onto the long elevation fronts onto Wimborne Street and Park Court to the north. The narrow elevation faces Shoreditch Park with a recessed western elevation above 4th floor level to reduce the impact on daylight to existing homes to the west. The Shoreditch Park elevation has additional articulation due to its prominent aspect. So this is the ground floor plan of Wimborne South, so on the southern side of Wimborne Street. Again, the long elevation faces onto Wimborne Street. It has a communal entrance lobby and bin store accessed on the western side of the building with communal bike storage facing north onto Wimborne Street. The front entrances of the 2 ground floor wheelchair accessible units face south and address a secondary route facing by the entrance of the existing Cropley Court estate building to the south. Again, long elevations to Wimborne Street and existing homes to the south, and a short elevation to Wimborne House to the west, and Wimborne House to the east, and Wimborne Court to the west. There is a 2-storey setback which creates space between the block and Wimborne House, as well as to allow additional daylighting to neighbouring windows to the south. So this is a visualisation of the scheme as it appears from Shoreditch Park. In regards to the units, all of them go beyond the minimum standards for the respective unit and room size, and all units are provided with outdoor amenity space. In terms of materiality, all of the materials have been meticulously planned to guarantee quality and delivery. The two blocks are proposed to have a very similar experience, with facade design and materiality being replicated across the buildings. Materials include red and pink clay bricks with white and pink precast details, including bands and soffits, and white brick facades to identify entrances. The proposed external materials are considered to be aligned with neighbouring buildings, with the use of red and pink bricks complementing the existing urban fabric. And here you can see, you can see a view of Wimborne North and Brackland Court from Wimborne Street. And this is looking south toward, you can see in the foreground Wimborne North, and just beyond it you can see Wimborne South with the new play area. And finally, this is a view of Wimborne South with the new route to New North Road highlighted. Overall, the proposal is considered to provide a high-quality mixed tenure housing to meet the needs of the local residents in the borough. The development delivers a high standard of design and provides exceptionally high standard of residential accommodation that is sustainable and accessible. The development will not give rise to any significant off-site amenity or highways impacts, and will deliver public benefits in the form of updated landscaping and public realm works. All other material planning considerations have been covered with the report. Officers therefore recommend that the planning permission be granted, subject to conditions and the unilateral undertaking.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was very clear. And thank you for that bird's eye view. I think we should make those compulsory. It was really useful to be able to see that. It was good innovation. Okay, so Chris, please.
Would you like me to stop presenting?
Chris, do you need that at all?
I'm fine for it to be taken off.
Okay, take it off then.
Thank you, Chair. I really hope that the design quality of this proposal speaks for itself, so I'm going to keep my presentation fairly brief, and there are two areas that I'd like to focus on, and they are how the development would meet local housing need, and the steps we've taken to engage with the local community. So this application is one of 16 projects in the Council's Housing Supply Programme, which sets out to provide much needed affordable housing on brownfield sites on the Council's existing housing estates. Including Wimborne Street, the Housing Supply Programme is on track to deliver around 700 new homes. And currently, at least half of these, up to 400 currently, will be genuinely affordable, social rented and shared ownership homes. All of the homes will be developed and managed by the council, or in this case, by a local resident-led organisation. Furthermore, this application is one of 3 projects in the Hoxton West ward, which combined will deliver around 186 new homes, 60% of them affordable. So as the case officer has said, Wimborne Street site is located on the Wenlock Barn estate. It will provide 59 new homes, of which 22 or 37% will be social rent, 19% shared ownership, and 44% will be outright sale in order to pay for the affordable housing through a mixed tenure cross-subsidy model. At the time of the application, there were 188 existing households in search of an alternative home on the Wenlock Barn estate, of which 25 were in the urgent band. A local lettings policy means that those families in greatest need can move into a new council rented home that they require without leaving the estate. And that means that the homes they leave will be available to other households on the council's waiting list. In terms of our consultation, we've consulted local people and stakeholders extensively over the last 2 years. And that includes residents of the adjacent blocks and the Wenlock Barn Tenant Management Organisation. So this engagement has included newsletters sent to around 200 homes, We've had 3 public exhibitions and drop-in sessions before the lockdown. And we've door knocked around 200 homes, really making that extra effort to reach out to harder to contact households. And the feedback from these sessions has been really helpful. It's helped us to shape the final proposals before you tonight. For example, one of the key findings, and this came as a surprise to us, was the pent-up demand for smaller, high-quality and accessible units of accommodation. And that's reflected in the final unit and tenure mix of this development. As the case officer has said, we've also pushed and extended the red line boundary of the site so that residents of the surrounding blocks benefit from extensive landscaping and public realm improvements. That's all I'm going to say this evening on this project. Thank you for listening, and the project team and the consultants on the call will be happy to take any questions from committee members.
Thank you very much. Okay, over to members. I'll go through my list as I've got it here. So Katie, start with any questions, please.
Not right away, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Susan, any questions?
Thanks, Chair. My first question, sorry, I've got it listed and I'm trying to, okay, my first question is around the mixed tenure. As you said, this is part of the of Hackney housing project, and I'm wondering, you know, the commercial unit, you do mention that is there. Well, what I meant by commercial unit, the provision for outright sales, and I'm wondering, that is 44% of the provision, and I'm wondering, is that not possible? Is that in terms of viability, is that the lowest you can do? That is my first question. And the second one is, sorry, I listed it, and I just want to a bit of explanation around this comment by design review panel on confusion between public and resident only space.
Okay, fair. So the first question, Councillor Thomas, was to do with the affordable housing and tenure mix. So I'll take this, and then Chris, if there's anything you want to add to it, I can shout over to you. As previously mentioned, there is an overarching unilateral undertaking which underpins the housing supply program and has assigned an overall tenure and housing mix delivery target to be achieved by the sites within this program. So in regard to this, the affordable housing provided meets this requirement of affordable housing of a minimum of 50% of housing delivered on site. And it also ties into this unilateral undertaking as part of the wider housing supply program, which will also meet this 50% provision of affordable housing. In this development, the affordable housing is above the policy requirement for 50%, so it provides 56% affordable housing. It also meets the policy requirements for 60% social rent and 40% to be intermediate, so it meets that as well. In regard to the tenure mix, whilst this specific development will deliver a relatively low proportion of family-sized units, overall the housing supply program will deliver a policy-compliant mix and tenure split. And there's an appendix within the report, the delegated report that's been uploaded online, that includes this tenure split if you look through the appendix. Chris, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
Chair, with your agreement, if I can just add a few words. So I think the thing to say here is that the housing supply program, its priority is to deliver affordable housing. In the absence of meaningful levels of subsidy from government, that has to be largely paid for through a cross-subsidy model. So we only build enough homes for sale to pay for the affordable ones that we set out to deliver. And the council runs a portfolio approach to financial viability, so that a project which generates a surplus will be used to pay for a project that has a subsidy requirement. So overall, the housing supply programme sets out to deliver 70% affordable housing. For planning purposes, we have committed to a policy compliant 50% level. We are slightly ahead of that target at the moment, but as members of the committee will know, times are going to get tougher in the development market, and uncertainty around construction costs and house size sale prices means that we are currently sitting at a break-even position on viability. So any requirement to increase the amount of affordable housing on this scheme would have to be effectively paid for through a reduction in affordable housing on another project further down the line.
Thank you. Is that enough for you, Susan? Got your second question to ask, I know.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's sort of answer in terms of the differences between the surplus and subsidy. I'm not, I do understand the 50% planning in terms of planning compliance, but this is a council project that is set out to produce to provide affordable housing. So while I appreciate we're talking about compliance with the 50% provision, I do believe if we are setting out, this is a council project that 50 talking about 56 that we're ahead is not really relevant in this situation, but I do understand appreciate the argument from Chris that some of these projects will be surplus while some would require a bit of subsidy. So that is or make it for me. But the other one is in terms of the public space and residential space. I do understand that we're going to have enough provision of open space with this, but having said that, the lockdown really showed us how important it is on the state to have open spaces.
Okay, let's get an answer to that question then. The design review panel noted I think that there was too much permeability as well, didn't it? So can somebody explain how we've dealt with that?
Okay, so I will just get up a slide to make it easier to see. Okay, here we go. There we go. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
And you can hear me? Okay. So if we're looking at this development in terms of the provision of public open space, actually, I think there might be a better slide here. So in terms of permeability, the paths have been defined in terms of the through path, which will be north of Cropley Court, which will provide, I think, much needed permeability to New North Road, and it'll be with new paving, so it will be well signposted and landmarked. In terms of the space to the north of Wimborne North around Park Court, there will be perimeter planning for defensible space around Park Court, and there's a new improved path that comes to the north of Wimborne North that provides access to the communal spaces. In terms of the provision of the new bin court that for Parcourt, this is also included within Wimborne North development. So there needs to be permeability and access from Parcourt to Wimborne North to be able to access their new bin stores. So in terms of permeability there, those paths will remain for that purpose.
Okay, so you've stopped people wandering across the site as well, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, in terms of that. So there will be perimeter planting as well, and we've got some new linear trees that have planted along New North Road, so there'll be a more comprehensive edge to the development.
Okay, thank you. Brian, have you any questions, please?
It seems like a very worthwhile scheme, quite well designed.
Okay.
The only odd thing I noticed, I'm not sure these are common, but in the list of policies on page 1 of our agenda, a detailed unexploded ordnance risk assessment. I'm not sure I've seen one of those before.
Okay, what's
And
that?
oddly enough, we don't require it for the second site. It's only a few meters away. So don't we care about them?
Good spot. What's that about, Alex?
So in terms of, I just need to open up that document. Let me have a quick minute. It has informed a big part of the decision in terms of, but it was a document that was provided.
Okay, that sounds an interesting question. Go away and have a look about it and tell us about it later, can you?
Yep, will do.
Is that okay, Brian?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, Peter, do you have any questions? We can only see your, like me early, we can only see the bottom of your, that's better.
Okay,
That's much better,
so
Peter.
I have a couple of questions from a design perspective. I'm not sure which officer will deal with this, but I'll throw them in and find out. So basically, the first one, I do find it slightly confusing when we have design panel reports put to us, and I find it quite difficult to follow through what's been acted on and what hasn't been acted on, particularly when we get one copy of written plans, paper plans, and then another PDF presentation afterwards. So can someone just talk me through, in the original comments from the design panel, there was encouragement for the step back western elevation and disappointment that it had been stepped back and that perhaps made the building too imposing. Can someone explain to me, were those addressed by subsequent redesign to the scheme, and what the final view of the design panel is to the scheme as amended? So that's the first question. The second is perhaps not so much design panel, but if I look at the, and this is going to be difficult to explain, but if I look at the various drawings that we were sent, there's the detailed material elevation design proposal 4.3 on the various drawings that we were presented with. And I was just a bit surprised reading through it because we normally take a strong line against brick slips. I think I may know the reason this is different, but if you look at building component 5, which are the horizontal panels within building curtilages, as I understand it, they are precast concrete component with pink clay facing brick slips. Now, one of our concerns always about brick slips is we regard them as less robust, more subject to decay with age. So can someone just talk us through that component and why we feel there it's acceptable to have clay facing brick slips?
Good questions. Peter, can you do that?
Okay. I noticed Chris and James, the architect, were interested in answering a couple of those, but I can answer the question about the design review panel in terms of what has been addressed and whether they've seen the final scheme. So that review happened some time ago now, and it was it was looking at a much earlier iteration of the scheme. So lots has been changed since then. They've addressed the privacy issues which Councillor Fajana Thomas mentioned earlier. They've increased the they've reduced the permeability through the site to create more private, sort of more secure private area to the north. They've also adjusted the architecture in numerous ways in response, and we're quite happy that the comments of the panel were addressed. However, the panel hasn't seen the final iteration of the scheme. They rarely see the very final scheme. Usually there's a final iteration which responds to their last set of comments, and then it's submitted. So in terms of the brick slips, I think that's one for the architect or Chris to address.
Okay, James, so our presumption is against brick slips. Why are they appropriate in this circumstance?
So, Chair, James is going to come in on this point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi there, everyone. Just to introduce myself, James Turner, Associate Michael Riches. I'm the architect overseeing both this project and Buckland Street. So we've had extensive conversations with Ken Rorison from Hackney, who's obviously the kind of design champion from Hackney's side, around how we can best lock quality into both this project and the other project that you're going to see this evening. And one of our concerns as architects is, how do you embed that in a scheme? And that's why, as it's been picked out in the case officer's report, we have provided extensive details, probably quite unusually for a planning application, as to how these schemes will actually get built to the level of quality that we want them to. So to kind of come around to the question around brick slips, there are particular details on these schemes that we feel would be best served and best constructed in a certain way, using our kind of experience of creating, high quality award-winning buildings. We don't want to kind of do half measures on this project, and that's why, as part of the planning application, we've embedded certain strategies for construction and detailing, in particular the detailing of the banding on the facade. And having spoken to suppliers, various consultants, of how this can actually be done and achieved in a kind of elegant way, we kind of came to the conclusion that brick slips embedded onto a precast element, so effectively made off-site and then brought in, would be the best strategy. So it's a way of kind of getting a higher level of quality into the schemes. But obviously, I appreciate there have been other concerns on other projects with Hackney around brick slips, but we feel like that this occasion, mechanically fixed and then jointed and grouted brick slips is the right solution for this project.
So we're going to see a panel made up on site?
I believe that's been conditioned, but I'll probably hand over back to Alex at this point, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yes, so we have conditioned materials that forms part of the condition.
How are these things going to be fixed then? We've seen these things fall off if they're sort of polystyrene.
No, sorry, if I can jump in there. So we've got precast concrete elements. So effectively it is a masonry facade. So we're using high quality clay facing bricks. Again, all of this is conditioned within the application. So not fake bricks, but proper bricks. Those will be built up, and then where we have our precast concrete or brick detailing, that will be effectively again pieces of masonry. It's just where we've got this particular detail, we're using slips to do that, but it will be on a concrete bed.
Okay, so we might want to see this at a later stage then. Thank you very much. Okay. Peter, what was your second? Yeah, okay, those are answered, aren't they?
Yeah, no, but both of those been answered. I mean, I did rather expect that because it was precast, there would be a higher level of fixing. But we have had to, pull down blocks in the past because the tiling and that started falling off the front of them. So it is a point of sensitivity in terms of long-term management, and I would hope rigorous checks will be made to ensure that they're there for life. They're not gonna
Peter, you and I can go and see these mock-ups they're going to make. Okay.
That would be fun. Yes, let's do that.
Claire, any more questions from Claire?
Hello. My questions have become comments really because of the areas that have been covered. Very good to hear. I mean, I agree with Councillor Bell that the scheme seems to be a very well thought out and designed scheme, and it's really good to hear about the consultation that you've had with local residents. A comment in terms of the design review panel. I just wondered whether officers would, because 2017 is quite some time ago, and how the current design meets the recommendations. But I think it'd be quite helpful, you know, have the design review panel look at the finished design, and I don't know if that's something that officers could consider in the future going forward. My comment relates to so I understand this scheme has less family size units, and I also understand from what Chris said about the consultation and that the demand, the local demand was smaller units, because I'm sure I've read previous reports that, you know, it must put pressure on the viability of other developments within the Hackney Supply Programme. And as a committee member, it's quite hard because, you know, we cannot see all of the developments, and, you know, the way that all of the developments in the Hackney Housing Supply Programme meet, you know, the different kind of tenure mixes. So it's just quite hard to kind of take that statement at kind of face value. So that's the comments I wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I take that? I mean, the design review panel, the process is to try and, you know, get the best out of these guys and maximise their time and the usefulness of the process. So sometimes they will see it 2 or 3 times, and this is an officer decision. And sometimes it'll happen like this, really, I think. And so we, you know, I think we'd be wrong to enforce, you must see this more than once, twice, or whatever times. We take the advice of officers, and if it's appropriate for it to go back, I think it will. Is that fair, Natalie?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I think that's fair. It's obviously the design review panel have limited capacity, but yeah, we will make a judgment, and where we feel that a scheme would benefit from further comments, and we have in the past taken, you know, applications back several times, we'll do so. But yeah, I take on board Councillor Potter's comments there, and we can consider it on a case-by-case basis.
And Chris, for you, in terms of your, thank you for putting that appendix in these documents. I did notice it, that the various tenures, etc., and the targets, and you seem to be well above the targets. I think perhaps you need to. That's a good thing. And to answer Claire's point, when all this development comes out at the end of the day, if there is an end point to it, it should meet all the policy. It should be policy compliant, shouldn't it? Yes.
Yes, that's correct, Chair. It should be policy compliant, and that's all part of the balancing act. So, for example, there are some projects in Stamford Hill area where we will be providing a higher level of family accommodation than on this site because of the particular planning requirements in that area. Just a point of note on this, and I'm not going to ask the case officer to put the plan up, but if you remember, on the ground floor of Wimborne North, there were 4 one-bedroom flats. We had previously configured those as duplexes, so larger family units, which we thought would be picking up the local need. Actually, it turns out that for the M43 units, so the wheelchair accessible, the ground floor entry ones, the strong need was for smaller units of accommodation. So that's the area in which we flexed the design to meet that local need.
Claire.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Chris. I just wanted to add, I actually forgot to say that I was quite pleased to see you had mixture of all tenures in Wimborne North, which appears to me to be quite unusual. Perhaps I'm wrong in that, but I very welcomed that, you know, all tenures would be in one building.
Thank you. Can I ask a couple of questions? Alex, you talked about CPZ parking. Most councillors think of that as on street, so on the carriageway, whereas the photos you showed us, it was actually on the estate. I mean, is that estate parking or is it street parking that
Yes.
we're talking about?
I will get you a plan to explain this. I thought this might come up. Basically, what there is. Am I sharing the car park? Can you see the car parking plan?
Yes.
Okay, so basically there are 13 spaces provided in this estate here. So it's, I called it estate CPZ parking. So it's parking for the estate, so members of the estate. So basically, in line with policy 45, LP 45, estate parking can be re-provided for the existing estate residents. But no new parking permits will be provided to members of the new buildings. So,
so that is confusing for councillors, but I think we can understand it.
Yeah,
that's estate car parking.
Yeah,
as opposed to on street. So, Peter, I didn't ask you. Did the design and materials? You're happy with that?
Yes. I think. Is it which Peter?
Peter Kelly.
Okay. Designer materials. Yeah, I think that the architects, as you know, have a track record of delivering very high quality and award-winning housing. I think the standard is unusually high. The plans, the quality of the plans were unusually high. The materiality is very good, and the architecture is, I think, something we can really look forward to.
Okay, and we'll that condition about materials, we'll go and see these mock-ups on site. Will that be okay, Alex?
Yeah, that'll be fine. So I have conditioned the details of the brick as well as the precast and the metalwork samples, so they'll be on site.
It's a small point of two-tier cycle parking. I've hit my head on two-tier cycle parking so many times. I don't know why we're accepting it as good parking, because it isn't. And I think it's the last stuff that we really ought to be putting in these places. Joe, you must have hit your head on this stuff. Why are you not telling them not to put it in?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly understand the point you're making, Chair. I think in terms of when we come to discharge those conditions, we would very much expect cycle parking to be in line with the London Cycle Design Standards, and we would want, a high level of spacing. And obviously, some of the short stay cycle parking will be Sheffield stands, for example. So I do absolutely acknowledge the point that you're making. I think in this context it was a pragmatic decision, but we would expect for discharge that the level of spacing is substantial between each bike parking space.
Well, can you try? I mean, I don't know if it's a matter of a handful of, I don't know what the size is, but if you can do anything to stop them putting two-tier cycle parking in, you'll be welcome. It'll be welcomed by all the people who have to use the stuff.
Yes, absolutely. That's noted. Thank you.
I agree 100%. More of that were possible.
Yes, I'd rather have less parking if I could actually use it and not hit my head on it. The electric vehicle charging and the bike racks. I noticed that that they're going to go on the pavement. You know, I thought there was a presumption that these things would go on the carriageway. Can we write that into a condition, please, that they should be on the carriageway, not on the pavement? Alex?
Yep, sorry. Yes, that's something that can be, and the condition can be amended to include that.
Thank you. The boundary treatments, what are the boundary treatments for the ground floor flats?
So let me get, do you want me to show you a plan, or are you happy for me to
Just tell me, do they go straight onto the pavement, or do they have a defender?
No,
with
so
a
they've got,
wall and a load of railings, or what they got?
yeah, so at the back they've got railings and fences, and the same thing at the front. So they've got defendable space to the front. As I think I described it, it is set back, so it's not right onto the street. So they've got.
And what is the boundary? It's a wall, is it?
Let me have a look.
Architect, is it a wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
Okay.
trying to unmute myself. Yeah, no, we've used similar brick palette. You know, I think just from our point of view, those spaces are as important as the building itself.
Okay.
We've successfully done this sort of thing on other schemes, some very good schemes actually. And I think, yeah, those spaces and defensible spaces need to be handled in the right way. And I feel like we've done the best we can on this scheme.
Okay, thank you. Any questions anymore before I sum up? Claire?
Thank you, Chair. I very much welcome the additional tree planting. Sorry, I haven't read all of the report. I just wondered whether you could comment on the 4 trees that are being removed. What type are they? How large are they, etc.? Do they have any value to the community, etc.?
Live.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Leif. I'm the tree officer. One of the larger tree that's going to be removed, it's a lime tree. It's the tree that's going to be the next to the building. That has value, but to get the building in and provide more housing, unfortunately, it should be removed, and we're going to have a lot more planting going in. So I think that is a good compromise in this situation, yes.
It's a substantive replacement, is it? So it's a reasonable size tree?
Yeah, it's probably a heavy standard. Yeah, it will look good. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so no more questions. So thank you very much. We've got 2 conditions, I think. It's about the bike racks and the electric vehicle stuff not being on the pavement. And we're going to have the mock-up, or we're going to go out and have a look at the mock-up and sign it off as a committee. So if that's okay, the recommendation, really, this is not as good as God. Oh no, we've got the 9th of September. I do like a paper copy. Excuse me.
Shall I read it out for you, Chair?
Our recommendation: grant planning permission subject to conditions and completion of unilateral undertaking. People to vote on this. Those in favour, if you're in favour, to stick your hand up and keep it up. So you don't get a chance to have a look at everybody else or think about it. Is that clear? Thank you. So all those in favour, please show. Okay, so I can see that's Vincent, Peter, Claire, Brian. Katie's hand is in front of her face. I think that's Katie still.
Sorry, yes, it is me.
So Susan, I can see. Is there one missing?
No, I think that's everybody, Chair.
So that's unanimous.
That is correct, Chair. I've got unanimous, all the members present for
Tommy,
the
happy with
application.
that? Okay, good. Okay,
Thank
thank you very much. We look forward to seeing Wimborne Street. Next on the agenda is Buckland Street, similar proposal. So we've got Claire coming in instead of Alex. I can see Claire there, I think, now.
Hi, Chair. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Chris, is it the same group of three that you want in?
It's the same team, Chair.
Same team.
Claire, can you just speak again because you sounded slightly echoey?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, thank you, Claire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody else?
I will just pull up my presentation.
Right, yes, over to you then, Claire, please.
Great. So the site is...
1 minute.
Oh, all right. You ready for me to start? So can you hear me?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. All right, I will start. So the site is Buckland Street. It's on the southern side of Buckland Street, within the St John's estate. It relates to 54 single-storey garages. And this just shows sort of a better perspective of the red line boundary. So as you can see, it includes Buckland Street along the north of the site, and then Clunbury Street and Cherbury Street to the east, the west, and excludes these two existing towers. So this is an aerial view of the site. These are the garages to be demolished. The site's not in a conservation area, and there are no listed buildings within the immediate vicinity of the site. And as you can see, the area is characterised by residential development ranging from 4 to 11 stories in height. So the proposal is to, as I've already said, demolish those 54 garages and construct 3 6-storey residential buildings. These will be connected at ground floor by interlocking podium buildings, and within them there will be 54 units ranging in tenure from, we'll have social rent, intermediate, so shared ownership, and then also market rent, market ownership. This is Villa C, this is Villa B, and this is Villa A, just to be clear. Villa A will include a commercial unit. The proposal also includes landscaping works. So we've got general landscaping in the south, which will include a games area, and then general play space for younger children and just recreational space. And then we'll have public groundworks along Clunbury Street, which will include shared surfacing, and then the re-provision of on-street parking. So I'll just go through some photos around the site. So this is taken from the north side of Buckland Street, looking towards the site. So these are the garages in question. And then this here, this is Cherbury Court in the background. This is Clunbury Street with the commercial units along the ground floor, and then Vincent House in the background. This is a view from the north of Buckland Street. So this here is Crondell Court, and then this is the 4-storey part of Crondell Court, and then the garages in the foreground. This is taken from within the site, looking at the existing games area with Cherbury Court in the background. This is looking north from within the site at Buckland Court, and this is Crondell Court here. And this is looking west along Buckland Street. So this is Vincent House here, the garages, and then this is Marshall Court. And then this is looking from Clunbury Street towards the site with Crondell Court in the back and Cherbury Court here. And then this is just a view towards the east down Buckland Street, so showing that there is also a bus route that travels along here. And then this is a view from the northeastern corner of the site, looking inwards. So this is Crondale Court, Cherbury Court here, the garages, and then in this space here, that's the games area that's to be redeveloped. So this is a proposed site plan showing general landscaping, the re-provision of the on-street CPZ parking spaces, and this is a ground floor plan. So this is the commercial unit within Villa A. On ground floor, we also have 5 wheelchair accessible units of bicycle storage and waste storage. The ground floor units will have private amenity space in the form of a patio, and then there's defensible space to the shared communal space to the south. That can be talked to later. And then this is a typical first, second, third floor plan of the villas. So they're largely the same. They've got a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom dwellings. And then just to note that Villa C is purely market rent, market housing. And this is 4th and 5th floor plans. Also worthwhile to note that all dwellings are dual aspect and they all benefit from their own private balconies. This is just the roof plans, so showing the green roofing and then solar PV panels. So this is a breakdown just to show that 67% of the housing provided will be affordable housing, and then this also meets the split required through LP13. And then for the car parking, just break down that there are 18 on-street parking spaces at the moment, and the proposal will provide 18 again, albeit 5 of those are flagged for blue badge. And then the proposal will also introduce 148 bicycle parking spaces. This is a northern elevation, so facing Buckland Street. And then I'll just show you a few visuals. So this shows the materials to be used and the intended outcome of those. And this is viewed from Buckland and Clunbury Street. So this is the northern elevation. Then this is from Cherbury and Clunbury Street. So this is the rear elevation of the development. This here is Cherbury Court. And then a southern elevation with the mixed games area here, informal play space for younger children here, and as you can see, general landscaping as well. This here is the defensible space and landscaping to create privacy for the ground floor units. And this is just the proposed landscaping again, showing the inclusion of public groundworks as well. There'll be build outs which will include the trees. And then we've got general landscaping around. This will be a single story bin store for Villa C. And then we've got new bin stores for existing tower buildings. And then this is a sketch of the landscaping to the rear of the buildings. So through the proposal, we obviously did public consultation through site notices and as well as publication. The key issues that were raised were in regards to whether actually there is a need for such a development on this site, the impact of residential amenity, construction impacts, the reduction of CPZ parking spaces, and then the planting of trees adjoining commercial space. These have been addressed through the report and considered to be acceptable. In terms of the addendum, under the drawing numbers, the detailed unexploded ordnance survey should be referenced. Paragraph 4.2.1, this should refer to there having been 4 objections and 1 comment received. And then paragraph 8.1.7, this relates to external lighting condition. So this should also reference sensor details to be submitted. Any other amendments that were made were generally typos and don't alter the content of the report. So apart from those mentioned, everything else is in accordance with the report prepared. So overall, we consider that the proposal will result in the creation of a high quality development that affords public benefits to the surrounding environment and the borough as a whole. So on this basis, we recommend the application be granted subject to conditions and a unilateral undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Okay, let's do it another way this time. I'll put you on. Chris, can you give us your 2 penn'orth, please? And I'll come to Claire first for your question, Claire. I'll reverse the order. Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for listening again. This is the second of 3 projects in the Hoxton West that will be coming to you this autumn. The third project is at Murray Grove on the Fairbank estate, and combined those 3 projects will deliver around 186 new homes in the ward, of which 60% will be affordable. All of these schemes form part of the Council's housing supply programme, which is delivering new affordable homes on brownfield sites, such as the garages at Buckland Street. And as I said previously, we're currently on target to deliver around 700 new homes, of which at least 50% would be affordable. So in a similar way to Wimborne Street, I'd just like to focus on those 2 important areas, which are housing need and resident engagement, local consultation. Buckland Street site is located on the St John's estate. It will deliver 54 new homes, of which 67%, so 2/3, would be genuinely affordable, social rent and shared ownership. So hopefully that goes some way to addressing concerns raised in respect of Wimborne Street. And we really are pushing the viability envelope as hard as possible to maximise the amount of affordable housing that we are delivering here. And at the time of the application, there were 49 households on the St John's estate in housing need and in need of alternative accommodation, of which 4 would be in the urgent band. And a local lettings policy means that those families in greatest need would have the opportunity to move into a new council home that meets their needs without having to leave the estate, without having to leave their community. And it also means that the home that those people vacate would then be available for reletting to other people in housing need from the council's housing register. And similarly to Wimborne Street and all the projects in the housing supply programme, we've carried out really extensive engagement with local people and stakeholders over the last couple of years. And that includes, importantly, residents living in the blocks surrounding this site, and also St John's Tenants and Residents Association. And this engagement has included newsletters sent to around 300 homes. We've had a further 3 public exhibitions and drop-in sessions. And again, we've door-knocked the same 300 homes to speak to as many people as possible and take as many views and soundings as we can on these design proposals. And as with all sites in the housing supply programme, that feedback has informed our final proposals in front of you tonight. One of the things you'll see, and this is in common with Wimborne Street, is that we have extended the site boundary, and we'd like to ensure that the extensive landscaping of public realm will provide a high quality open spaces for all residents, whether that's young or old, new people moving in and existing residents of the estate. It also includes provision of a shared surface at Clunbury Street, and you probably saw from one of the case officer's photos, quite a tight turn opposite the shops there. and a shared service will bring traffic calming benefits and further benefits to existing residents in terms of a joined up waste and refuse disposal strategy with new bin stores, etc. So I've kept this brief. Thank you again for listening, and the team would be happy to take questions from the committee.
Thank you. So Claire, please.
Hi, first a comment and then a general question. So the comment is, I'm really pleased to see that the local lettings policy is really, you know, having great benefit to existing residents. Of course, it was first used on the King's Crescent Estate phase 1 and 2, so it's really just pleasing to see how it's been rolled out. My question is very general. I mean, aside from what has been said already, and both Claire and yourself, Chris, have addressed some of this, in terms of the design review panel recommendations, can you elaborate further on the definition, on the recommendations in terms of the definition between the public and private space height and massing, and also the interface of the ground floor with the surrounding public realm? Do you think the design review panel would approve of the design as it now stands?
We'll ask Peter that as well, if you don't mind. But Chris, you can comment on that if you wish.
Well, I can't give you a planning or a planning policy view, but I'm sure that architect would like to spend 5 minutes, if I could call James in, to tell you about the challenges of designing on sites with no real front or back and how we create a sense of place. And unusually, this was a project that went to design review panel twice. And we had actually scaled down the height of the proposals and have really improved the ground plane treatment and the way that provides defensible space for residents. But James, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. So it's probably worth just clarifying for the purpose of the panel. As Chris said, we've been to DRP twice with this scheme, approximately a year between visits. The first one I would say is probably more akin to the comments that is in the report. So I can understand why there may be some confusion in terms of what the scheme is that you're seeing versus what the comments reflect. But just to pick up the first DRP that we went to, it was with a larger scheme. It was with a 7-story scheme. And that is where the response has been to actually reduce unit numbers, reduce the height of the scheme, and drop it down to 6 stories. So that comment has obviously been addressed in the scheme you're seeing this evening. Another thing that came out of that first DRP was to do with permeability, as you picked up. And the original scheme didn't actually originally have building mass between the villas, so there was kind of 3 very distinct separate villas where, you know, there kind of wasn't really a clear front or back. People could permeate between the 2, and that's where the scheme that's actually been submitted for planning has gone through extensive pre-apps and kind of design reviews with Peter and his team, and Gareth we kind of got to a point where we've almost kind of created a front and a back to the scheme. And I think Claire actually kind of said in her kind of presentation, actually rightly so, that there is a front onto Buckland Street. So that's I'm glad to see that seems to have translated. And that has been encouraged through front doors, a sense of entrances, a presence onto the street. And then the back almost faces onto the newly kind of landscaped areas. And again, we've, you know, significantly extended the site boundaries on these schemes so that we can lock in a kind of really generous landscape offer to existing residents, because it felt, you know, really uncomfortable to be putting these buildings on the site and not actually extending that landscape offer in a kind of meaningful way. And that has been one of the things that has been extensively consulted with residents, with, you know, kind of pin boards of what play equipment, you know, the children want to use, where trees are, down to a level of detail where the ground floor units of the 2 tower blocks, we've had kind of one-to-one engagement with residents around how we delineate that boundary treatment so that they feel comfortable. So I know that's kind of gone through a range of scales there, but hopefully that's kind of gone some way to kind of explaining the kind of fronts and backs and kind of how people permeate through the site. There's probably one last thing I'll add, which would be clearer with a landscape plan, which we can pull up if people feel necessary, but the communal area between the two towers, which has got the play areas in, is actually fenced off with gates. So there is a kind of management of that space that could be implemented if necessary.
Peter, is that fair?
What specifically is fair? Sorry.
The design review panel comments, have they been resolved over time?
Almost everything is fully resolved to our satisfaction. The only thing that the design review panel did request was greater spacing between the three blocks, or they suggested a range of mitigation measures which could be used instead. So what the architects have chosen to do is really focus on maximizing the privacy across these relatively narrow gaps between the blocks by staggering the windows, building in shutters, making sure that any overlooking is absolutely minimized. And we considered that separating the three blocks out as they are maximized the natural light to all the flats. It maximized dual aspect in a way that couldn't have been achieved otherwise. It maintained the north-south visual permeability through the site, maintained views from existing blocks and their windows north. Generally, we were very happy that with the mitigation measures and the overall decision to keep the massing as it is, and yet every other design review comment we think was addressed to our satisfaction.
Thank you. Okay, Peter Snell, you can have the next question.
Well, thank you. In fact, I was going to commend Claire on this report, because what I do like about this is the fact that at the end of the design panel comments, you put the above comments have been addressed in the planning assessment further within this report. And when I then read on through that planning assessment, many of the points that Peter's just made are very clearly set out there. So, I mean, could I commend that for all reports, because it is good to understand exactly how planning design panel comments are addressed, particularly when it's not. Sometimes they come from some time ago, and often they're made on a previous iteration of the project. I wanted to ask a general comment, if I could, that's relevant to this application and also the others that we're told we're considering this autumn. We know that one of the key barriers to increasing our recycling rate in Hackney is the relatively low levels of recycling that we achieve on public housing estates. And there is reference in these various reports to review of refuse arrangements. But I wondered if you could just someone could quickly explain to us the approach that you're taking as part of this programme to increase recycling rates, make it easier for residents on these types of new blocks to recycle and get up their recycling rates.
Chris, have you got anybody to respond to that, please? Oh, James.
I would just say that recycling rates are low in flatted accommodation and are probably lower in our estates. But James will have a much better knowledge of the refuse strategy that we've put in place and how we are seeking to manage that as best as possible. If that's okay, Chair, I'll bring James in.
Yep, surely.
Thanks, Chris. I'll try and help you out on that one. So I think obviously within the existing estates, recycling rates are low. I think in particular with the existing tower blocks that are adjacent to the scheme, you've got the old bin chutes that go straight into one thing. It's very easy for residents, but as I think you're inferring, it all ends up in the same bin. So one of the things that we have done in particular on Buckland Street is build a new bin store. The purpose of that is to hopefully increase residents. So as much as we've got our new buildings, which I'll come on to, there is an offer to existing residents to help increase their recycling, and all of the refuse provision is obviously in line with policy, etc. So I won't go through that because that should be a kind of it is what it is. In terms of the new buildings, though, which I can probably go into a bit more detail on, we've obviously got 3 villas. In terms of their refuse provision, each villa has a bin store associated with it. Each bin store has then again policy compliant refuse and recycling. So provided residents are recycling in their flats, they will then be able to take it down, and it will be as easy to put it in the left-hand bin as it will be to put it in the right-hand bin. So apart from, you know, user education and, you know, other means, it is as easy as we can make it for residents to do that. I think that's probably all I've got to say.
Thank you. Brian. Oh, sorry, Katie, have you got was that an?
Yes, Chair. I was also like Councillor Potter. I was going to refer to the local lettings policy, because I understand this is car free, but do people who move within the estate get to keep their estate parking permit? I recall that was the case for previous similar schemes. And in light of that, have we assessed whether the reduction in parking spaces is going to cause sort of like a contested parking on the estate? And when it says CPZ, is that on the estate or on the carriageway?
Claire, I think that's for you.
Okay, so just to clarify, when I say CPZ, it's on-street parking. So all on-site parking is to be lost through the proposal. In terms of existing residents on the site and being relocated, I'm just going to check the wording of the unilateral undertaking that we've drafted and see if that exempts them.
Certainly similar schemes that have come before the committee, people moving within estates haven't had to relinquish their right to buy parking permits as part of that move. And I'm not saying I'm against it, but it would be useful to clarify.
Just give me one moment, please.
Chris, do you know?
Thank you, Chair. This is complicated stuff because you've got the CPZ on street parking and then you have estate parking. I will be happy to come back to councillors with a written answer on this. My understanding is that so the new homes will be parking free.
Okay.
A transferring resident with an existing estate parking permit would maintain that estate parking, but the new person coming into their recycled home would not. I don't believe that extends to CPZ, but I would prefer to give you a written answer rather than just rely on my memory.
I think it would be good to have a written answer, Chair, because obviously car free can mean different things. And certainly my understanding of car free normally is that you're not entitled to buy an on-street parking permit, and that's part of the deal. I think allowing people who are transferring within an estate to keep their estate parking permit, especially if they're freeing up a unit that can be let for someone else, is more suitable. I think that's a humane approach.
The important thing is there will be no increase in parking pressure because anyone coming in would not have that right.
To buy an estate permit, but they would be allowed to buy an on-street permit?
Pass.
Okay, Alex, sorry, Claire, do you know how to resolve this, or shall we have it come back to us at some point?
Yes,
please. Could we ask Joe to say a few words on transportation?
Oh, yes. Joe.
Please.
That was certainly my understanding, that a returning resident would be able then to purchase or park on street within the CPZ. But yeah, absolutely. I think getting your written response may be the most appropriate way forward.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk about that at the end then. Thank you, Katie. Brian, you were next on my list. Any questions?
On the whole, very good scheme.
Okay.
Encouraging portion of affordable. I've just noticed the bin store layouts and something draw my attention to it is quite odd in that the bin store is Villa B underneath Villa C and has a separate freestanding bin store to the east of the site. Is that correct?
James.
Yeah, that is correct. It probably does look quite curious on plan, and it's actually something the client raised with us.
If I looked
It's
in
actually then something we
B,
pushed back in the sense that, again, to go back to Peter Snell's point, is we want to make this kind of as easy for residents to use as possible. So we've located bin stores immediately adjacent, or kind of, albeit even if it's in the base of the adjacent building, so that residents can come out the door, access it easily, and it's kind of immediate, it's there. And that's hopefully to try and make it kind of user friendly and easy for people. And the kind of same sort of principle has been taken up with bike stores. So I think I haven't got a plan in front of me, but yeah, A is associated with B, and that's where C has the additional space as well.
well, bike stores work, but the bin stores under C don't really work that well. But it's only a minor thing. I'm not going to worry about it, vote against it. That's fine, Chair.
Thank you. Susan, please.
Thanks, Chair. My question, the first one is around this multi-use games area behind Shelbury Court. I just want to find out, I'm talking as a leaseholder on a small council estate in terms of open spaces. Is that at the moment, is that the open space that is used by people that lives in Shelbury Court? If that is a yes, during this construction, I know there is a provision within this development. Where is there any other open space where they can use during the construction? And in general, when you were during your presentation, some of the garages you you showed us in your presentation seems it looks as if they're currently occupied as commercial or spaces. Can you please comment on that as well? Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, I can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a window to talk you through this. And the applicant might be able to add to this as well. So can everybody see the proposed site plan?
Yes.
Brilliant. So yeah, this is the games area that's to be re-provided. At the moment, there is this garden here, which is to the east of the site. That will remain in use, that's my understanding, throughout construction. So the existing residents will be able to access open space. But moreover, there is also public open spaces surrounding the site that people will be able to access as well. So they're not going to be at a complete loss of amenity space throughout construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
James, can you
if you don't mind me just adding to that, just to the south of the site, within 100 meters, there is another Muga provision, which is a fenced off basketball court. So in terms of actually, young people having something during construction, it really is within a stone's throw just to the south of, I think it's called the Blue Hut or the Green Hut, I can't remember which one's which. But obviously to the north as well, you've got Shoreditch Park within very close proximity. So I would like to think there is ample provision during construction. I think the re-provision of the ball court, as I said earlier, is part of, quite an extensive landscape provision. And I think the re-provision is to reflect the fact that there will be more people using it. Again, there's been extensive conversations with our client around should we replace it or could it be left? And I think we've encouraged them to actually kind of, embed quality in the scheme and not just work with the existing. So I think, again, kind of applaud Hackney really for kind of, putting something forward that is of a really high quality and wanting to do the right thing as an applicant for the local area.
Thank you. And the second one, Claire, was about the commercial use of the garages. Was that right?
Yeah, so it might be better if Chris speaks to that issue, possible.
Thank you, Chair, with your agreement. Yes, so there are existing garages on the site. When those garages were built, it would have been for private car use over a period of time. I think cars have got bigger and garages haven't got any bigger, so they tend to be used more for storage than vehicles. All of those garages are now vacant. So we have worked with the existing garage users to offer them replacement premises, garages as nearby as possible. And those that have chosen to take those garages have taken up that offer. So there's no evidence that people have been running businesses from them. They've been mainly used for personal storage. I guess part of the tragedy is that we hear of people living in garages in boroughs like Hackney, and that's one of the reasons why we're building affordable housing. But those garages are now vacant. Residents or garage users have been offered replacement garages where they've wanted that, and we'll be moving to demolish the garages in advance of construction starting.
Thank you. Can I ask some questions then, please? Just to say, it's remarkable, and it's a sort of, I don't know, many years of we've been looking for this. 54 garages are being replaced by 54 homes, and it's an amazing coincidence, I guess, really, and something that we should take note of and applaud and recognise that, wow, you can get a whole home out of a garage if you work very hard and you can indeed improve the rest of the area, it seems. And also, can I commend this Red Line business? I mean, this is great. We've been asked, I can remember asking this for the Colville estate. We said, let's have the Red Line taken into some of the issues that are around the estate. So can I, Chris, encourage you to do that as much as you can? That's really good. The brick slips business, and is that the same issue there on this design? It looks to be the same materiality. James.
Sorry, I felt that was coming my way, so I thought I'd put my hand up. So ever so slightly different on Buckland Street. So obviously there is a similarity between the palettes of the two projects. I think that's partly because the client wanted to have a consistency. They are quite close proximity. And I think that was something that was raised by Peter as well, but it's kind of by the by. I think, yeah, you know, we are responding to the existing estate. Again, we're using a high quality clay facing brick. That's, I think, been conditioned. I think the same sampling condition would be probably welcomed by all involved, if that hasn't already been picked up, for the same reasons. The slight difference on Buckland Street is the treatment of the banding. Again, if we want to put an image up, I'm sure we can, but the banding expressed at floor levels is a precast concrete, so not brick slips in this instance, so just a precast concrete, and where that runs through to soffits of balconies, that's being picked up with a GRC concrete, so no brick slips in this instance.
Thank you. Okay, and the condition, Joe, electric vehicle charging on the pavements and bike racks. Can we include that? Is that appropriate, Joe?
I think that would be similar to Wimborne Street. Certainly, I've no objection, especially with EVs on the carriageway. And in similarity, we're happy to look at the cycle parking.
Thank you. James, Katie will smile when I say this. This building is only 6 floors, and so you could build it in cross-laminated timber. Have you considered that? Considering you haven't got your carbon sustainability levels down?
I think that was a question. Just to answer that, I think the scheme has got the flexibility to be built in a number of different construction types. We've had a structural engineer assess that prior to obviously the planning application going in. Nothing's been committed to at this stage, but I can say for the purpose of today's meeting that there is the flexibility in the design for it to be built in a number of different ways, and that will get brought out.
Thank you very much. We'll try and encourage Chris to do that then. The design material, we've been told that's okay, so I'm okay with that. Yeah. Okay, so I think, anybody else got any more? No? Okay. Right, let's have a look. Unless Katie's got the recommendation. If you get it before me, Katie, that'll be good. So the recommendation is grant planning permission subject conditions and completion of a unilateral undertaking, and that extra condition that we talked about with the EVs on the carriageway, etc. All those in favour, please show. Okay, so I can see Susan, Brian, Katie, Claire Potter is in the dark, but I can see her hand up, and Peter and myself. So that's all of us, Gareth, is that right?
Chair, I have all for the application, by the look of it.
Thank you very much indeed.
If Tom would like to second that as the legal officer, could you see all hands, Tom, for the application?
I could see them before, and now I can see them back up again.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So that's unanimous. Thank you. Brilliant, well done. Look forward to seeing this pink building. What's a great palette. That'll be interesting. If you can get any awards out of that, and say hello to Mikhail for us. Okay, so we've got one more, and we'll try and go straight to that so we can finish early.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Chris.
The disinfecting site. That's very topical at the moment, isn't it? Gerard, are you there somewhere?
Yes, Chair, I think I am. Can you hear me?
We can see you and hear you.
Oh, right. I seem to have...
And Tim, is Tim Wilder around? Yes, he is. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
God, dear. We need some advice on lighting, I think, for this. Everybody's getting darker and darker.
I think this will be the case now, as obviously we go into autumn.
Is that really Tim Wilder? I think I can see him.
I'll try and put another light on.
Side onwards, I can see it is you, yes.
Gerard, if your earlier question, we can hear and see you. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, that's good. No,
Gerard's lighting is very good.
You've got it all horribly wrong, unfortunately.
Gerard's lighting is good. Tom's lighting is good. And Peter's lighting is good.
Yes.
Okay. Tim, are you around?
I think he's gone to sort his lighting out.
Okay. Okay, let's start then. Okay. Over to you, Gerard.
Okay, well, I'm just...
Oh, better, Tim.
Okay, Chair. Thank you. This is an application relating to the Hackney Disinfecting Station, which is on Millfields Road. It's next. Let me put my pointer on. It's next to the council depot here, and there's the UK Power Networks station there as well. Now, this is a picture of the building. It's a fairly unique building, and it's part of a group of buildings on the site. That's just a picture of the site notice, because I know, councillors, you like to see that.
We do.
Now, the main buildings are buildings A, D, and J, which date from 1900 to 1901 with subsequent alterations. These buildings towards the rear date from 1934, and there are some other modern buildings towards the rear of the site. Now, the second building on the site is a shelter that was originally built as 4 flats, 2 on each floor, and they were for people to stay in when they were using the disinfecting station. It has previously been used as offices associated with the refuse department, but it's now got living guardians, and this is the former caretaker's lodge, which is occupied by a local charity. Now, what's proposed here is a number of works to basically stabilize the building and to make it watertight. And to prepare it for the next stage in its life. And on the ground floor, there's two lean-to areas here at the front which are going to be removed. Those are more recent, from the 30s or the 60s, and are not significant to the building. And there's various internal works that are going to be taking place on the ground floor as well. Now, apologies. In terms of the first floor, this roof at the rear is going to be repaired following the removal of 9 courses of brick, and various holes and windows, roof lights are going to be infilled. This has all been detailed in the schedule of works, which was attached to the report, the committee report. And again, on the roof, where there are missing roof lights or leaking roof lights, they're going to be repaired and replaced. And you can see in elevation here, this is, this extension here at the rear of the site is going to be lowered and the roof reinstated. These are the lean-to sections at the front. This is the front of the building. You see those lean-to sections here going to be removed. On the other elevation, again, you see the lowering here, works to repair this window, and again, the lean-to sections. And on the northern elevation, you can see where windows are being repaired and that roof section lowered. Now, this is the bit that's part of the section that's going to be slightly lowered, having 9 courses of bricks taken out. And unfortunately, you can see that the roof of this has partially collapsed. And that's an example of a missing roof light on the first floor. So those lean-to elements are, as I said, to be removed, as is that one there. Now, this application is for listed building consent only. It's being referred to the planning subcommittee because it is a council's own listed building. The application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions, as it will stabilise the building, which is currently on the Heritage at Risk Register, and, as I say, facilitate the next stage of its development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And because Tim is here, I'll just ask him to come in, tell us a bit about the history and the story. And is there any hope of sorting this building out? Please, Tim.
Thank you, Chair. We have a late joiner. We have Gurpage Singh, who is from the property department. I know he's down to speak. So he might be able to say a little bit more perhaps afterwards about future plans for the building.
Okay.
I won't say too much about the history. There has been a Hackney Gazette article, and I did do a talk to the Hackney Society about the history of this building, and there is a forthcoming article in Hackney Archives magazine, Hackney History. So if members are interested, they can email me and I'll send them a thing about the history. The gist of it is it's one of the first buildings of Hackney Council when it started in 1900, and it was intended to deal with infectious disease. So there was 3 buildings. A caretaker's house for the man then who ran the place. So if you had an outbreak of infectious disease in your house, you would be taken to this place and you could stay overnight in the shelter building. There were 4 one-bedroom flats while you were being cleaned up and your clothing and your furniture. So in 1900, there would have been a horse and cart operation, and you would have then had all your clothing and all your soft furnishings steam treated with formaldehyde, while you took a bath with chemical soap to get rid of the possibility of things like whooping cough and diphtheria and other infectious diseases like scarlet fever. That changed as time went on. In the 30s, the stress changed from infectious disease towards infestation with bed bugs and lice. And so what was going on there was it's more about moving people from slum clearance to make sure they didn't take their bugs with them in their furniture and on their person. It relates to a statute of 1896, which is still in force, where you can report yourself to the council as an infested person, and the local authority is obliged by that statute to this day to disinfest you. What they started doing then was they obviously upped their game with more in the way of steam treatment and formaldehyde, but they also built a number of buildings at the rear and did some quite heavy adaptations for using motor lorries rather than horses and carts. Excuse me. And the system used involved Zyklon B gas to fumigate furniture. And that went on until they also fumigated library books in case that was a vector of transmission. And then during the Second World War, the building was adapted again to deal with an outbreak of scabies, which was to do with people being very close together in air raid shelters. That sort of changed in the post-war period to disinfecting a lot of clothing, second-hand clothing, which Hackney sent to Germany and Italy as they were recovering from the war. At one point, people of Hackney sent 400,000 items of second-hand clothing to Germany and Italy. Later on, it became connected with environmental health and the disposal of infected milk and contaminated meat. Towards the end, it was mainly used by the council's sort of waste department for sort of storage and so on. And it also has some old dog kennels out the back from the 1990s. What's going on is the last use for this actual building, the disinfecting station itself, which still features a lot of original plant, it was last used in 1984 by the knit nurse for unfortunate children at school who were found to have knits. But since 1984, it's been disused. It was listed in the 90s and it's been on the Heritage at Risk Register ever since. And obviously it's a disused building for about 40 years. It's not in the best shape. So this is stage one of a programme to get it off the Heritage at Risk Register, which is obviously a public benefit, and also to bring this potentially useful piece of land and a useful building back into kind of council use. So this is the first step in a long-term plan. At the moment, the building's a bit of a nightmare because it did contain a lot of asbestos, which has now been removed. Parts of it are collapsing, so the reason why 9 courses of bricks have been removed is so that people can actually safely enter the building to explore options and examine it. But you can't safely enter parts of the building at the moment. So the main thrust of the works is to mothball it for the next 5 years so it doesn't get any worse. So we're talking about clearing the rubbish, dealing with large holes in the roof where there should be roof lights but they've fallen in, repairing the roof, fixing the gutters so that the building's basically weather tight, removing some lean-tos at the front which are actually falling down, propping up parts of the building so that you can safely enter the building and the building structurally can stand up, and to board up the windows against potential for sort of fire and foxes and other animals getting in, which has been a bit of a problem. I think, Gerard, there is an addendum including an additional condition. So this has had quite heavy oversight from myself and from the architects, and there is a condition requiring ongoing oversight of the works by the architect to ensure that things are done according to conservation and good practice. It's based on a condition survey. So it's one of these situations where basically we're propping something up and we're mothballing it for the next 5 years so that it is retained, so that we can explore better options for reuse without losing the building. The whole thing is designed in line with conservation good practice, and I've got no hesitation whatsoever in suggesting that you might want to approve it if you're so minded.
Thank you very much. That was a tour de force, and wow, thank you. Right, over to Mehdi Rezai. Are you the guy who knows where the money's going to come to sort this out? Or was it Gurpaj?
It's Gurpaj.
I'm afraid not, Chair.
Okay, Gurpaj. Are you there?
Hi, Chair.
Here we are. Hello. So how are you going to sort this lot out then?
Good question. It's been a challenge today. Excuse me. But the first primary objective has been to get the building wind and watertight, and the strategy thereafter will be to explore our options. And we are currently working with the Neighbourhood and Housing Directorate to establish their estate needs for the next 5 years as part of the depot review. And architects have been engaged explore early design concepts.
Okay, so this is a heritage lottery sort of bid.
At the moment,
it?
These works are being funded by the council, but we are working closely with Tim to explore external funding options.
Okay.
Whether such a pot will exist in the current environment, but we're plugging away.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for your works, and Timothy and Gerald. That sounds a very interesting project. It's been around a long time, as long as any councillors can remember. We've had issues with that site. Are there any questions, members? Claire.
It isn't a question, it's just a comment. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to go and see this building, I think back in 2016-17 when I was Heritage Champion, and very pleased that, you know, these works are, you know, being proposed, and just like to state that I thoroughly support the recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's enough there. And Susan, you've got a question?
Thanks, Chair. Not really a question, it's a comment as well, just to say thank you to Tim and the other members working on this. I would like us to work as a council to see the possibility of getting or applying for the National Lottery Heritage Fund to bring this building back and take it out of the risk register in the near future.
Peter, any?
I'm afraid they're all comments today, but it is worth noting, I think, that it's very rare for English Heritage, is it, to actually go out, Historic England, go out of their way to commend the quality of the authority's conservation officer. So well done, Tim. I don't know if that's aimed at you or the rest of the team, but anyway, well done, and we do appreciate the work you all do.
Chair, can I just say, if there's an opportunity to put this in something like London Open House in a future year, could we possibly consider that?
Well, I'm sure so.
Well, I'd love to see Tim leading tours of it.
I think we should put his tour de force on the
exactly
tweet or something. It'll go viral. It was a great exposition of the issues. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. So the recommendation is to grant listed building consent subject to conditions. All those in favour, please show. I can see Katie, Claire, Brian, Peter, Susan and Vincent. That's all in favour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. That was unanimous.
Yeah.
Unanimous, yes, Gareth. And
please, Chair, can I say to Tim to send that link to Gary to send to us?
We're all interested in the history.
We're all interested.
Okay,
and
thank you.
Gareth will tell me to say that we've got to note the delegated decisions document. So thank you very much.
Preempted me there, Chair. Thank you very much.
Chair, in relation to the delegated decisions, forgive me if I've missed this, but we used to get reports of appeals and their implications for Hackney, but I haven't seen those for a long time. They no longer come to committee.
I think it's sort of as and when we push them, to be honest with you, and the 106 monies where that's been spent. So Natalie, can you get your head around that? We used to do it. There's examples in the past.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Chair. We think we tend to do it on an annual basis, don't we? It goes to corporate committee and then on to...
The 106 one does, yeah. But I think the inspector's decisions are really useful learning for members and, you know, to see how we're doing. So if we could have a review, I think you do them, don't you, somewhere in the department?
It's in the inspector's decision has some sort of learning for Hackney that used to come to committee. I've no idea whether every appeal is summarised or only significant ones, but we certainly a few times a year would get 2 or 3.
Yeah, once every 6 months at least, I think it was.
Yeah,
okay, I'll try and pursue that. Gareth.
Just one final point is that if none of the councillors are aware, obviously they probably are, but I'll just double check. Obviously there is another planning meeting next Wednesday. The papers are online now. You should also have copies been sent to you in the post if you requested it. and there are also copies at the reception desk for you to collect.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, anybody else got anything to say? Going once, twice, 3 times? No. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, planning team. Thank you,